The stink of burnt coffee and dollar store disinfectant felt permanently etched into my skin. Second double shift of the week, and every step across the cracked linoleum sent a throbbing complaint up through my arches. In my apron pocket, folded small, was Maya's crooked sun drawing from that morning. My little girl's bright yellow talisman. Mine too. Proof there was still warmth somewhere in my life. I was wiping down the counter when the door chime rang. Same tired sound as always, but for some reason the air in the diner thickened. I looked up. She walked in wearing a gray overcoat that screamed money, a kind of tailored, effortless elegance that didn't belong in Cedar Ridge. Dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, and eyes, calm, observant, cutting straight through the fried food haze like she was reading subtitles under everything she saw. She chose the booth in the far corner, the one people used when they wanted to disappear. Somehow she did the opposite. I brought a menu, trying to smooth my expression into the usual polite blankness. But standing in front of her, something inside me lurched. Not fear exactly. More like the unnerving feeling of being really seen when you've gotten used to being furniture. Morning. Coffee's free if you order the special, I managed, adjusting my grip on my order pad so she wouldn't see my hands tremble. Just the coffee for now, she said. Then after a tiny pause, and your best smile. If that's not asking too much. Her voice was low, unhurried, carrying easy authority. I felt my face heat. It had been a long time since anyone asked me for anything that wasn't refills or extra napkins. For the next hour, I served her. I topped off her coffee 3 times without being asked. She never once reached for her phone. She watched the room. She watched me. I saw her gaze linger on Maya's drawing peeking out of my pocket. I saw her expression shift when I quietly cut up an older man's steak because his hands were shaking too much to manage the knife. Little things I did on autopilot, survival gestures. But she noticed. When she finally asked for the check, a strange chill crept up my spine. She signed the receipt with a smooth practice stroke. The name on the card, Elena Vance. She stood, adjusted the immaculate line of her coat, and gave me a barely there nod. You have the hands of someone who builds, Marisol. Not just someone who serves. Then she walked out. I hurried to the booth, pulse racing. Rent was due in 3 days, and tips were the difference between keeping the lights on and choosing which bill to let slide. I grabbed the receipt. Tip, $0. My stomach dropped. My face burned with humiliation and anger. Seriously? After all that careful observing, after that line about my hands? I'd let myself believe she was different. Jaw tight, I reached for the plate to clear it, and it didn't move. It was stuck. Frowning, I lifted it carefully. A folded sheet of thick paper waited underneath. Hands shaking now for a different reason, I opened it. Inside was a check big enough to make my rent look like a small rounding error, and a short note in firm, elegant handwriting. I saw how you care for the world even when it forgets to care for you. Asterisk, this is not a reward for your service. It's an investment in what you have yet to build. Asterisk, call me when you're ready to stop just surviving. A phone number followed, and beneath that, a logo I'd never seen before. An architectural foundation of some kind. I stared out the fogged window and caught a glimpse of her car. Something glossy and dark disappearing down the road. For the first time in years, the weight in my chest wasn't pure exhaustion. It was something far more dangerous. Possibility. I stood frozen there until Carla, the other waitress, bumped my shoulder with a loaded tray. You gonna move or planning to grow roots? She asked, not unkindly. I shoved the check and note deep into my apron like they might evaporate. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. Every order I rang in, every plate I wiped, that slip of paper pressed against my ribs like a brand. By the time I clocked out at 11, my hands shook so badly I fumbled my keys at the car door. Maya was asleep when I got home, sprawled sideways across the sagging mattress we shared in our shoebox apartment. I kissed her warm forehead, then sat on the edge of the bed under the weak glow from the street lamp outside and fished out the note. The check was real. The number was real. But was any of it real? I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the cracked ceiling, replaying every second. The way Elena's fingers had curved around the chipped coffee cup like it belonged in some art gallery. The way she listened when I rattled off the daily specials, like the words mattered. The way she'd searched my face without pity. More like curiosity or recognition. Was I actually sitting here obsessing over a customer? A rich woman who probably handed out life-changing checks like party favors so she could feel generous? So why did it feel like she'd uncovered something in me I'd almost forgotten existed? 3 days passed. I kept the note folded in my wallet, taking it out on breaks to reread until the creases threatened to tear. I used the check to pay rent and buy groceries without sacrificing Maya's school supplies for once. I should have felt nothing but relief. Instead, I felt haunted. On the 4th day, I called. My thumb hovered over the number for 10 full minutes before I forced myself to tap call. It rang twice. Elena Vance. Her voice was exactly as I remembered. Controlled. Certain. Hi, this is Marisol. From the diner? Cedar Ridge Diner. My words tumbled over each other. You left your number and I just wanted to say thank you. For the check. It helped. A lot. I'm glad, she said. Soft shuffle of paper in the background. But that's not why I left my number. My throat went dry. It's not. No. I'd like to meet with you. Are you free Saturday morning? Saturday was my only day off. Laundry day. Park day. The one day I felt vaguely human instead of a machine. I opened my mouth to say I couldn't. Yes, came out instead. Good. No trace of surprise. Bluebird Cafe on Maple. 10 a.m. Don't be late, Marisol. She hung up before I could reply. I stared at my phone, heart kicking around like it had lost its rhythm. What was she doing? What was I doing? Saturday came too fast and not fast enough. I dropped Maya with our neighbor, promising pancakes later. I changed my shirt 3 times before settling on a clean blue blouse, then caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. When was the last time I'd looked at myself without just cataloging new lines and dark circles? Bluebird Cafe was worlds away from the diner. Exposed brick, low jazz, hanging plants, the kind of warm lighting that made everyone's skin look soft. I felt like I walked onto a movie set. Elena was already there, seated at a corner table, 2 steaming mugs in front of her. When she saw me, something in her expression eased. Just a little. Just enough for me to notice. You came, she said. You told me not to be late. I sat, gripping the table edge to steady my hands. I'm still not sure why I'm here. She slid 1 mug toward me. Because you're curious. And because you're smart enough to recognize an opportunity when you see it. Even if you don't trust it yet. The coffee tasted as good as it smelled. Of course it did. What kind of opportunity? I asked. I run a foundation, she said. We focus on architectural development in underserved communities. Not just buildings, ecosystems, schools, community centers. Affordable housing that doesn't feel like punishment. She studied me the same way she had in the diner, but now there was intent behind it. I need someone who understands survival from the inside. Someone who won't romanticize hardship or treat people like case studies. And you think that's me? I let out a disbelieving breath. I'm a waitress. I don't know the first thing about architecture or, you know people, she cut in. You understand dignity. She leaned forward slightly. I watched you for an hour at that diner, Marisol. You treated everyone the same. The old man, the teenagers, the guy who stiffed you. No hierarchy, no resentment. Just care. That's not technique. That's who you are. Hope throbbed, sharp and dangerous, in my chest. What would I even do for you? I don't have a degree. I barely finished high school after I had Maya. I don't care about letters after your name, she said. I care about aptitude, instinct, and your willingness to learn. Her gaze didn't waver. I'm offering you a job, community liaison. You'd work directly with me. Help identify needs, build relationships, make sure our projects actually serve the people they claim to. Starting salary is $60,000 a year. Health insurance. Childcare stipend. $60,000. I almost laughed. It was more than I'd made in the last 2 years combined. Why me? I whispered. You don't even know if I'm reliable or... I know enough, she said gently. Her hand moved across the table, stopping just short of mine. I know you're resourceful. I know you're resilient. I know you care. The rest we can figure out together. That word. Asterisk together asterisk, hung between us, heavy with possibilities I was too afraid to examine. I need to think about it, I said, though my bones were already leaning toward yes. Of course, she said. Take the weekend. Call me Monday. She stood, left enough cash to cover both coffees and paused. And Marisol? Yes. Stop punishing yourself for wanting more. You're allowed to take up space in the world. She left me shaking in that beautiful cafe, tasting good coffee and the edges of a future I'd never thought belonged to me. The weekend was agony. I cleaned the apartment twice. Took Maya to the park. Cooked, did homework, folded laundry. Every mundane action felt like a thin layer over the roaring question underneath. Do I jump? Sunday night. Maya looked up from her coloring book, forehead creased. Mama, are you okay? I'm fine, baby. Just thinking. About what? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her mother has been handed a door she never thought she'd see, much less walk through? A new job, I said. One that might change things for us. Would we have to move? She asked quickly. No, I said. We'd stay in Cedar Ridge. Would you be happier? She asked. The directness of it cracked something in me. When had my kids started worrying about my happiness? I think so, I managed. Yeah, I think I would. Then you should do it. She said it like it was obvious. You deserve to be happy, Mama. Out of the mouths of children. I called Elena that night before fear could drown me. I'll take the job, I blurted when she answered. Silence, then a soft exhale. I'm glad, she said. There was a warmth in her tone I hadn't heard before. Relief. When can you start? I need to give 2 weeks' notice at the diner. Of course. HR will send paperwork tomorrow. A pause stretched between us, neither of us quite ready to hang up. Elena. Yes. Thank you, I said. For seeing me. Marisol, she replied, voice low. Thank you for letting yourself be seen. I took the job. Of course I did. What I didn't expect was how completely it would rewrite me, from the outside in and the inside out. The first week felt like being dropped in a foreign country without a phrasebook. Elena's office was glass and steel and fast-walking people speaking in acronyms. My thrift store blouse and nerves felt louder than any conversation. But Elena never talked down to me. She introduced me as an essential hire. When someone raised an eyebrow at my resume, she cut them off with a look that could have stopped a glacier. Marisol brings something more valuable than credentials, she said. She brings lived experience. If you don't understand why that matters, you're in the wrong line of work. I wanted to kiss her then. I also wanted to run. Instead, I learned. I asked questions. I took notes. I pretended my hands weren't shaking when I spoke up in meetings. Our first big project was for Cedar Ridge itself. The town that had squeezed me dry for years was now the focus of a major community investment, and I was at the table, not serving food to it. Elena's vision. A community center in the old elementary school building, with a library, childcare, job training. A hub. A place that said, people here matter. She wanted my take on everything. We spent long hours together. On site visits at residents' kitchens in planning sessions. When I spoke, she listened like I was pointing out load-bearing beams in an invisible structure. Sometimes I'd catch her just looking at me, with a softness that didn't fit any job description. I told myself I was imagining it. She was my boss. She was kind, attentive. That was all. Except her hand lingered on my shoulder a heartbeat too long. Except her voice dropped when she said my name. Except I knew in my gut that I wasn't imagining any of it. 3 months in, on a Tuesday night, everything shifted. We were alone in her office going over feedback survey forms. Outside, the city glittered behind the glass. Inside, time felt muted. Listen to this, I said, reading from a handwritten comment. She says she hasn't felt seen by her own town in 20 years. But our listening sessions made her feel like her voice mattered. My throat tightened. Elena, this is real. We're actually changing something. When I looked up, Elena wasn't looking at the papers. She was looking at me. Really looking. What? I asked, instantly self-conscious. Do I have something on my face? No, she said quietly. You're remarkable, Marisol. Do you know that? I gave a nervous laugh. I'm really not. You're transforming how we work, she said. You've made me see things I'd stopped seeing. She stood and walked to the window, back turned, shoulders tense. I've built a career on distance, she said. On staying objective. On not letting personal feelings interfere. My pulse thundered in my ears. I should have backed away. I should have changed the subject. Instead, I stood and followed her. Elena, I said softly. She turned. For the first time since I'd met her, her composure cracked. I saw vulnerability there. And want. Tell me to stop, she whispered. Tell me this is inappropriate, that we should keep things professional, that I'm misreading this. Her eyes searched mine. Say the word, and I will. I stepped close enough to smell her perfume, warm, woody, expensive, unmistakably her. What if I don't want you to stop? I asked. The kiss unfolded slowly, as if the air had thickened to water. Her hand rose to cradle my jaw with a tenderness that almost hurt. When our mouths finally met, it wasn't fireworks. It was recognition. Like exhaling after years of holding my breath. When we parted, she rested her forehead against mine. This complicates things, she murmured. I know, I said. You're my boss. There are power dynamics, ethics, all of that. I know. I don't want to hurt you, she said. I don't want you to ever feel pressured. If your next sentence is that we should pretend this didn't happen, I warned, I might actually hate you. She laughed, a raw, surprised sound that lit up my chest. I'm not going to say that, she replied. I'm going to say we need to be careful, smart, and that the last thing I want to do is push you away. We didn't sleep together that night. We didn't even kiss again. We sat on her office floor, backs against glass, shoulders brushing, talking until the cleaning crew came in and gave us curious looks. Maybe we were a little insane. Felt like the best kind. The next months were a study in restraint and stolen moments. At work we were measured, formal. After hours we were something else. Elena came to my apartment, sat cross-legged on our stained carpet helping Maya with math homework. Maya adored her immediately. I tried not to think too hard about how watching them together made my chest ache. Elena took us to museums and parks and places I'd only ever seen in magazines. She never made me feel like a charity case. She made me feel like I belonged exactly where I was. Still, the gap between our worlds was impossible to ignore. Her colleagues talked casually about ski trips and second homes. I remember digging for loose change to cover Maya's lunch. She spoke offhandedly about grad school. I felt the weight of my unfinished high school credits like a bruise. One night, after a particularly tense community meeting where someone accused our foundation of gentrification, I snapped. What if they're right? I burst out, tears spilling as soon as we got into her car. What if I'm just here to make you all feel better about bulldozing people's lives? The token poor single mom you bring to meetings. Elena pulled over immediately, turned toward me with fierce determination. Stop, she said. You are not a symbol. You are the most crucial voice in that building. But I'm just one person, I said, crying harder. One person who barely made it out of Cedar Ridge myself. You're the person who reminded me why I started this work, she said. Her hand found mine in the dark. Before you, I was building pretty functional shells that won awards and looked good in reports. You taught me how to build connection, trust, meaning. I looked down at our joined hands. Hers smooth, manicured. Mine callous from years of hot plates and bleach. They fit. I'm falling in love with you, I whispered. And it scares me because people like me don't get happy endings with people like you. People like you? She echoed quietly. Marisol, there is no one like you. And I'm not writing our story based on statistics. I'm writing it based on this. She lifted my hand to her lips, kissing my knuckles with almost painful gentleness. And for the record, she added, I'm already in love with you. We made love for the first time that night, in her penthouse overlooking the city. No lightning bolts. No melodramatic soundtrack. Just slow learning, soft laughter when we fumbled. Tears when the vulnerability felt like too much. She traced the scars on my hands as if they were medals, not reminders of every double shift. I mapped the lines of her shoulders, the fragile strength of her collarbone, the little intake of breath when I whispered her name. Afterward, wrapped around each other in tangled sheets, I cried. Not from sadness, out of sheer, overwhelming relief. What are you thinking? She murmured into my hair. That I'm terrified, I admitted. That this is too good. That I'm waiting for you to wake up one day and see me as a mistake. She shifted so we were face to face. Her eyes in the dark were steady. You want to know what I see? She said. I see a woman who raised a kind, brilliant daughter while working herself raw, who never lost her humanity, even when life gave her every excuse to, who walks into rooms that weren't built for her and changes them by existing. That's what I see. I kissed her hard, trying to pour into that kiss everything I couldn't articulate. Thank you. I want this. I'm still scared. I love you. We fell asleep like that. I woke to sunlight pouring through those massive windows and panic spiking in my chest. This life, this bed, this view, this woman couldn't possibly be mine. Then Elena murmured my name in her sleep and reached for me. Like even unconscious, she chose me. For the first time I let myself think, why not? Work became easier and harder all at once. Easier because I wasn't battling my feelings alone anymore. Harder because every interaction had two layers now, professional and personal. When she praised my work, I had to remind myself it wasn't just love talking. When she critiqued something, I had to accept it as feedback, not rejection. We were painstakingly careful at the office. No touching beyond what you'd see between any colleagues. No secret looks. It didn't matter. People noticed anyway. The softening of her voice when she said my name. The way I unconsciously angled toward her in meetings. The way we seemed to finish each other's sentences. Some coworkers were supportive. Others suspicious. A handful were openly hostile, convinced I was using her, or she was using me. The gossip was exhausting. We faced it together. 6 months in, I met her mother. I'd been dreading that moment from the first time Elena mentioned her. Patricia Vance, old money, East Coast, the sort of woman who probably knew which fork to use by sound. I imagined her taking one look at me and seeing right through to every insecurity I tried to bury. The restaurant didn't have prices on the menus. Elena had helped me pick out a simple dress that made me feel less like an imposter. We sat holding hands under the white tablecloth until Patricia arrived. She was exactly what I expected. Elegant, precise, posture like a sculpture. She kissed Elena's cheek, then gave me a cool once-over. So, she said, you're Marisol. Not unkind. Not warm. Measuring. Elena has told me quite a bit about you. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Vance, I said, proud my voice stayed steady. Dinner felt like a job interview in disguise. Patricia asked about my background, my education, my plans. I could sense her running mental calculations. Risk, reward, pedigree, lack thereof. Elena tried to steer the conversation to safer ground. Her mother countered like a seasoned fencer. Finally, over dessert, Patricia set down her fork and fixed me with her clear, assessing gaze. I'm going to be candid, Marisol, she said. My daughter has a history of trying to fix things. Buildings. Systems. People. I need to know, are you a project to her? Or are you a partner? The word stung. I felt Elena tense beside me, ready to jump in. I beat her to it. With all due respect, I said carefully, that's a question for your daughter, not me. But I'll tell you what I know. I met Patricia's eyes head-on. I'm not broken. I'm not a rescue case. I'm a woman who survived more than most and is still standing. Elena sees that. She doesn't just see my struggles, she sees my strengths. And yes, she's helped me. But I've helped her too. I've reminded her why her work matters. I've changed how she connects with the communities she builds for. This isn't charity. It's a partnership. If that's not obvious, maybe you don't know your daughter as well as you think. Silence crashed over the table. Then Patricia's lips curved into a slow, genuine smile. Well, she said. That's the first honest thing anyone's said to me in months. I think I like you, Marisol. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all evening. Elena squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes bright. The rest of dinner softened. Patricia told childhood stories about Elena. Stubborn, idealistic, convinced she could change the world. I nodded toward my wife-to-be. She still is, I said. And she is changing it. When we said goodbye, Patricia pulled me aside. Take care of her, she murmured. She pretends to be indestructible. She's not. And let her take care of you. That's what a real partnership is. I nodded, throat too tight for words. The months that followed brought challenges from every direction. Maya started acting out at school. When I finally coaxed the truth out of her, she sobbed into my shirt. They say you're only with Miss Elena 'cause she's rich, she cried. They say we're not a real family. My heart fractured. I hugged her tight. Baby, look at me. I touched her hand to her chest. Does this feel real? She nodded, tearful. Does Elena love you? Another nod. Do we love her? Yes, she whispered. Then that's what makes us a family. Not what other people say. Different doesn't mean fake. Different means we're brave enough to live our truth. When I told Elena, she was furious. I'll talk to the principal, the parents. You'll do nothing, I said gently. We can support her, but she has to learn to stand in who she is. We can't fight every battle for her. Reluctantly, she agreed. We worked with Maya's teacher. We talked with her about class prejudice, the way people view families like ours. Slowly, my daughter's spine straightened. Her voice grew stronger. The judgment didn't just come from kids. One afternoon at the grocery store, I ran into Linda from the diner. Heard you got yourself a fancy new gig, she said, a sharp note in her voice. Must be nice having connections. Heat crawled up my neck. I worked hard for that job, Linda. Sure, honey. She pushed her cart past. We all know how it works. That night I vented to Elena. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'll never be anything but the waitress who got lucky to everyone else. Let them think what they want, Elena said. You and I know the truth. The people whose lives you're changing know the truth. It still hurts, I whispered. It makes me feel like I'll never outrun who I was. You're not supposed to outrun her, she said. You're supposed to honor her. A year into our relationship, the community center, Maya's place, stood finished. Elena asked me to give a speech at the opening. I wanted to bolt. I'm not a public speaker, I protested. What if I freeze? Then you'll be human, she said. Which is exactly why they need to hear you talk, not me. So I wrote a speech. I rewrote it a dozen times. I practiced in the mirror until Maya groaned that she knew it by heart and could deliver it for me. On opening day, I stepped up to the podium, knees shaking. The crowd was a surreal collage. Former coworkers from the diner, Maya's teachers, the residents we'd interviewed, board members in suits, Elena in the front row, eyes shining. A year ago, I began, voice wavering. I was a waitress barely scraping together rent. I'd convinced myself that survival was all I was allowed to want. That anything beyond that was selfish. I drew a breath. Then someone saw me. Not my lack of a degree. Not my overdue bills. Me. And she invested in who I could be, not just who I was. I gestured to the building behind me. This place, Maya's place, isn't just about walls and programs. It's about the belief that everyone deserves a foundation. Not only the concrete kind. The kind made of dignity, respect, and the certainty that your zip code doesn't dictate your worth. I found familiar faces in the crowd, people who'd watched me struggle. Some of you saw me at my lowest, I said. Some of you judged me. That's okay. I judged me too. But this center is bigger than my story. It says we all deserve second chances. We all deserve investment. None of us are disposable. My voice broke on the last line. Thank you for trusting me with this. Thank you for letting me be part of building it. Thank you for seeing me. Applause crashed over me. I only saw two faces. Elena, eyes wet, and Maya beside Patricia, grinning like I'd just flown to the moon. Afterward, people lined up to talk. Some to congratulate, some to confess their own hard roads, some to apologize. Linda was among them, mascara streaked. I'm sorry, she said hoarsely, for what I said in the store. I was jealous. You got out. I didn't. I hugged her. You're not stuck, Linda. This place is for you too. We've got classes, childcare, job help. If you want change, we'll help you build it. 6 months later, we got married. Nothing extravagant. We held the ceremony at Maya's place. Maya scattered petals down the aisle, nearly tripping over her own feet. Half the town showed up. I wore a simple white dress. Elena wore a dark suit that made my knees weak. We wrote our own vows. Marisol, Elena said, voice thick. You've shown me love isn't about rescue. It's about recognition. About seeing someone fully, scars and all, and choosing them. You are the bravest person I know. I promise to keep listening to you, to keep learning from you, to never take for granted the miracle of your trust. I choose you today and every day. By the time it was my turn, tears blurred everything. Elena, I said. You saw me when I felt invisible. You didn't rescue me. You reminded me I was worth rescuing. You gave me permission to want more. I promised to challenge you, to push you, to love you fiercely, to build a life that honors where we came from and where we're going. I choose you. Every single day I choose you. We kissed, the room erupted in cheers, and Maya clapped her hands over her ears, giggling. That was 2 years ago. Now I run Maya's place full-time. I oversee a staff of 12 and a 7-figure budget. I've proved, to myself most of all, that I'm not there because I married the founder. I'm there because I built this work with my own hands. Elena and I still work together, but we've carved out clear lanes. She focuses on strategy and fundraising. I handle community engagement and programs. Her big-picture vision, my on-the-ground reality. Her polish, my plain-spoken honesty. Last month, we launched a scholarship program for single moms finishing school. Our first recipient, Jasmine, is 24, with 2 little kids and 3 part-time jobs. When I told her she'd been chosen, she covered her face and sobbed. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? I thought of Elena's offer to me years back. Thought of the way I'd asked the same question. You survived, I told Jasmine. You kept going. You never stopped believing your kids deserved better. That's what you did. Watching her graduate with her high school diploma, I saw myself. The woman I'd been, the woman I'd become. And I knew this was more than giving back. It was about building a world where women like us didn't have to choose between surviving and living. Maya's thriving. Middle school now. Fiercely kind. Righteously indignant about unfairness. She wants to be an architect like Elena. Recently she came home upset because a friend's mom made a comment about our different family. What did you say? I asked her. She shrugged. I told her different is just another word for brave. You say that all the time, Mama. My heart almost burst. That's the legacy I care about. Not the building named after my daughter. Not the awards on Elena's wall. The values we're handing down. The courage we're seeding. Sometimes I still go back to the diner. I sit in the booth where Elena first sat. I remember the version of me who was bone-tired and convinced invisibility was her fate. Then I think of the woman I am now. Loved, purposeful, still scared some days but unafraid to take up space. The money, the job, they mattered. But the real change was permission. Permission to want. To hope. To believe my story could have more chapters than struggle. People always want the dramatic moments. The big check under the plate, the shocking promotion, the wedding. Those matter. But the real story lives in the small, repeated choices. In the way Elena still brings me coffee every morning exactly how I like it. In the hours I spent learning to read architectural plans so I could speak her language. In parenting debates about curfews and screen time. In family dinners that end in laughter and occasionally slam doors. We argue. About money, about schools, about holidays. We go to couples therapy. We talk about class differences and imposter syndrome. And how to handle relatives who still don't get us. It's not a fairy tale. It's better. Because it's real. Real is waking up next to someone who has seen you at your ugliest and still reaches for you. Real is building something that matters brick by brick, conversation by conversation. Real is showing up even when it's hard. If you're reading this, if any piece of my story feels familiar, I want you to hear me clearly. You don't need someone rich to save you. You don't need an Elena to walk into your diner. But you do need to stay open. Open to the idea that your life can be different. Open to people who see your worth before you do. Open to the terrifying risk of believing you deserve more than survival. Your worth isn't your resume, your bank balance, your postal code. It's how you treat people when there's nothing in it for you. It's the dignity you hold on to when the world tries to strip it away. It's the love you still offer, even when you're bone dry. Elena didn't give me worth. She mirrored the worth that was already there. So make the call. Walk into the interview. Apply for the job you think you're underqualified for. Ask for the raise. Leave the relationship draining you. Start the business. Enroll in the class. Do the thing that scares you. Because on the other side of that fear might be everything you didn't dare imagine. Your story isn't finished. It's not defined by what other people expect of you. It's waiting for you to claim it. You deserve good things. You deserve to be seen, valued, loved, not for what you can provide, but for who you are. You deserve a foundation, a community, the chance to grow into the person you were always meant to be. Don't let anyone, not the world, not your past, not the voice in your own head, convince you otherwise. So what are you waiting for? Take the risk. Choose yourself. Somewhere out there, your next chapter is waiting for you to turn the page. And I promise it's worth it.